It is day 261 of the second Trump administration, and this evening, Texas National Guard troops have officially entered the city of Chicago despite an ongoing lawsuit over the legality of their deployment. FBI Director Kash Patel posted this on social media, quote, "Chicago will be saved, and this FBI will continue to crush violent crime there and around the country," end quote. Meanwhile, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem traveled to Portland, Oregon, to visit the local ICE facility as the administration pushes to deploy troops there. Around 400 National Guard troops are currently stationed at military bases in Oregon, but Trump-appointed federal judge there has ordered it to be blocked, that deployment for Portland, at least for now. The governors of both Illinois and Oregon condemned the president's deployment of the National Guard troops, and they called for all of them to get sent back home. Meanwhile, Attorney General Pam Bondi made a combative appearance before the Senate Judiciary Committee, clashing with Democrats and some Republicans who questioned her handling of the Epstein case and the prosecution of Trump's political rivals. Watch this.
Do you believe that government officials like Gregory Bovino are obligated to follow applicable court orders, whether they agree with them or not?
I wish that you loved your state of California as much as you hate President Trump.
That's a simple yes or no question.
The president said, "We can't delay any longer, Pam," using your name, and then goes on to tell you to prosecute a member of this committee, to prosecute the Attorney General of New York, and to prosecute James Comey. Do you consider that a directive to the Justice Department?
Senator Klobuchar, President Trump is the most transparent president in American history.
Did you discuss James Comey with the President of the United States? He was sitting just to your left.
Well, 2 seats down, yes, 2 seats down. And I am not going to discuss any conversations I've had or not have with the President of the United States.
Because the American public is entitled to know.
How did you conclude that these strikes on ships or boats in the open ocean are legal?
Senator Coons, I'm not going to discuss any legal advice that my department may or may not have given or issued.
All of this is happening as negotiations to end the government shutdown are at a complete standstill. Earlier today, President Trump suggested that hundreds of thousands of furloughed workers, that means you're on pause and will be getting your pay when you're back to work. He said they might not receive back pay when the government reopens. Watch this.
Is it the White House's position that furloughed workers should be paid for their back pay?
I would say it depends on who we're talking about. I can tell you this, the Democrats have put a lot of people in great risk and jeopardy, but it really depends on who you're talking about. But for the most part, we're going to take care of our people. There are some people that really don't deserve to be taken care of, and we'll take care of them in a different way.
I'm not even sure if that is legal. We are now officially in day 7 of the shutdown. And just a few moments ago, I spoke with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York. Watch this. Leader Jeffries, thank you for joining me. We are now in day 7 of the shutdown. A week from now, military paychecks could be missed. There are already travel disruptions and a host of other problems. Where are we on ending this thing?
Well, good evening. Great to be with you. As House Democrats, along with Senate Democrats, we've continued to make clear we'll sit down with anyone, anytime, any place, including the president. We'll go back to the Oval Office to have a conversation about reopening the government immediately, ending this Trump shutdown, entering into a spending agreement that actually makes life better for the American people as opposed to hurting everyday Americans. And certainly we need to address the Republican health care crisis because it's devastating everyday Americans all across the country.
Even if Republicans come to the negotiating table, is there any point in agreeing to anything without a binding agreement that the White House actually spends the money?
Well, exactly to your point, in the continuing resolution that we've introduced in both the House and the Senate, we've made clear that if we reach an agreement, it has to be ironclad so that the things that have actually been included in an agreement to reopen the government and spend taxpayer dollars are actually executed so we can improve the quality of life of the American people. Listen, we're dealing with a situation here in America where life has gotten more expensive, the cost of living is too high. Donald Trump promised to lower costs on day one. Costs aren't going down, they're going up. And because of the Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, we know for tens of millions of Americans across the country, their premiums, copays, and deductibles are about to go up. That should not be the case here in America, the wealthiest country in the history of the world.
Well, meanwhile, the president and Republicans are arguing that's not what it's about. They're saying Democrats just want to give free health care to undocumented immigrants. If you wanted to play pure politics, why not pass the continuing resolution and make Donald Trump show the American people what he's actually going to do with the big, beautiful bill, which would drastically cut health care benefits? Because right now they're making it sound like, no, this isn't about the American people. It's about undocumented immigrants.
Yeah, this is not politics. This is personal for all of us in fighting hard to make sure that the American people can actually go see a doctor when they're sick, that their hospitals and nursing homes and community-based health clinics don't continue to close, which is a consequence of the one big ugly bill. In fact, with that piece of legislation, that toxic, extreme piece of legislation, Republicans enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. They also ripped food from the mouths of hungry children, and all of this was done so that they could provide massive tax breaks that are now permanent to their billionaire donors. Our view is that that's exactly the wrong approach that we should be taking as a government. We should be helping everyday Americans, not rewarding the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected.
Well, now the president wants to bail out American farmers who were hurt by his tariffs, but he cannot do it without Congress. There is no money to bail them out without congressional approval. Could this be an opening for negotiating with Republicans?
Well, Republicans are going to have to decide that they want to act in good faith. And what we've seen, unfortunately, from congressional Republicans from the very beginning of this administration is that they don't function like a separate and co-equal branch of government. Instead, they've served as a rubber stamp for Donald Trump's extreme agenda. And they're hurting their own people. This is one of the reasons why we believe we have to address the Republican health care crisis, and we need to do it now. We know farmers and veterans and federal employees, everyday Americans, working class Americans, middle class Americans, they've all been hurt by these toxic and extreme Republican policies from the very beginning of this administration. This is an opportunity for Republicans in the House and the Senate to finally decide to actually be there for the people that they represent. Unfortunately, we're not holding our breath.
Yes, sir. I can hold my breath or nod and say yes, yes, yes. But what is the leverage point that's going to make them play ball? Speaker Johnson says he's opening to passing legislation that would pay the troops and air traffic controllers during the shutdown. Is that something you guys would consider?
Well, certainly it's been the case that there's always been efforts to provide support for our military troops, even in the context of a government shutdown. And there are several members of the House Democratic Caucus who are, in fact, leading that effort. But we do need partners on the other side of the aisle who are willing to abandon their extremism and do the right thing for the American people. What we've seen instead is that House Republicans, as we speak right now, Stephanie, are on vacation. House Democrats are on duty. Republicans are scattered all across the country. They canceled votes last week. They canceled votes this week. Donald Trump spent the weekend on the golf course, and they haven't gotten serious about reopening the government that they've shut down. And that's unfortunate. That's one of the reasons why we remain in this situation. But at the same period of time, Leader Schumer, myself, House and Senate Democrats have made clear we want to find a bipartisan path forward to reopen the government, to pass a spending agreement that actually lifts up the American people, but it has to be one that decisively addresses the Republican health care crisis.
Vacations, vacations and golf courses, phones still work. I know you're not going to give me names, but behind the scenes, are there any Republicans that you're talking to right now, that you're having active conversations with in the last few days?
You know, unfortunately, they went radio silent after the Oval Office meeting last week. and there still haven't been any meaningful conversations with Republicans, either in the House or in the Senate. I think their approach was just to try to continue to put the same bill forward, a partisan Republican spending bill that we've repeatedly made clear we won't support because it guts the health care of the American people. Senate Democrats have now voted against it 5 times, and things aren't going to change because this is a very real crisis. Premiums, copays, and deductibles are about to explode. The open enrollment period starts on November 1st. Notices are going out to everyday Americans right now as we speak. And even Marjorie Taylor Greene has acknowledged this is a very real cost of living crisis. And she's urged her own Republican leaders to get with the program.
Peter Jeffries, thank you. It is just extraordinary. When there is a crisis in the business world, everybody shows up and fixes it immediately. Government, it's something different. Good to see you. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
The takeaway, it's still shut down. Let's bring in our panel. Jeff Mason's here, White House correspondent for Reuters. Larry Sabato, director at the Center for Politics, a UVA professor and presidential historian who we haven't seen in a while. I'm glad he's back. And David Dayen, executive editor for The American Prospect. David, let's start with the shutdown. You said Democrats need to focus more than on health care, make this about the president's power grab. What do you think about what you just heard from Hakeem Jeffries?
Well, I think you hit them on the right points. I mean, the fact of the matter is, how can you have a deal made with a president that has shown every willingness to break every deal that he's ever tried with respect to government funding? There definitely need to be enforceable backstops, statutory language saying you can't do rescissions, you can't withhold funds, all of those kinds of things. And I think that until you do that, we're kind of acting under this fantasy that a deal can be made when there's just not a reliable partner on the other side.
Larry, the health care issue has been a success for Democrats in the past. Do you think it's going to work again?
Well, it already has, actually. The surveys so far have impressed me because overwhelmingly Americans are concerned about what's going to happen to their health care costs and their insurance premiums. And Democrats have been remarkably disciplined. They aren't always disciplined, but they have been in stressing what this means for the average American family and how much additional they're going to be paying if this isn't resolved. So I think they have to continue that, redouble it. And look, they pulled the trigger. They have to stick with this. They can't give in. I know the Republicans may feel the same way, but they're going to face pressure eventually from those families who are worried about their health care costs. They're also going to face a lot of pressure from average Americans who are worried about what's going to happen at the airports with an absence of TSA agents and air traffic controllers. And on and on. And why do I say they'll feel the pressure more? Because with, I think, 1 or 2 exceptions, every national survey so far has shown that Republicans are being blamed more than the Democrats. Not by an enormous margin, but by a substantial margin. And you've got 25 to 30% of the people who, as usual, blame both sides or who don't know. Well, gradually, they're going to be taking sides. And if Democrats stick to their principles and stick to the program they've adopted, I think they have a good chance of winning a substantial majority of the ones who finally make a decision.
Jeff, take us to Chicago. What more can you tell us about the National Guard station there?
Well, they're just getting started. I was in Chicago pretty recently, actually. It's definitely something that is being talked about by everybody on the streets, by everybody in the city. There are folks there who really object to the national, or the implication or the picture that has been painted nationally of their city. But this is something that President Trump has been threatening for weeks. It took him a while, honestly, to actually get there. And I think they've decided at the White House that now is the time, and legal constraints have been set aside.
Larry, Texas Governor Greg Abbott tweeted tonight that his state's National Guard is putting America first by ensuring that the federal government can safely enforce federal law. It's Texas National Guard troops that are in Chicago. Is it really America first for one state to send troops to another state over the governor's objection? I keep picturing, imagine if Illinois did that to Texas.
Yeah, you know, this is the Civil War in reverse. I mean, the Civil War we fought in the 1860s. You never know what's coming, but it's a Civil War in reverse. Instead of Illinois sending troops to Texas, Texas is sending troops to Illinois, and overwhelmingly, it is unpopular. That's gonna hurt, I think, the administration. It's certainly not going to hurt Abbott in Texas. He's well on his way to becoming the next Rick Perry, serving forever. But it is stunning to see that. And is that going to become the norm? And I'm among those who believe that the president and his administration are simply normalizing the use of troops from, say, red states into blue states. And, you know, they could end up doing it at a critical time, like, say, the election voting period in 2026 and 2028, where they could suppress the vote in blue areas and accentuate the vote in red areas. These are things that we once would never have speculated about. Now, I think you're closing your eyes to reality if you don't speculate about them.